Welcome back to another Spirit Island video. In this video, we're going to be continuing our series on Is This Spirit for You? In this video, we're going to be focusing on Shadows Flicker Like Flame. Your setup is going to be 2 presents in the highest number jungle and 1 in land number 5. Now, if you're playing on board F, that means all 3 of your starting presents are going to be in the same land, creating a triple stack. The playstyle is Shadows is very good at causing fear and picking off lone explorers and towns. It's great at containing the invaders, but not so much as doing massive damage, and it may need to rely on allies to handle those built-up lands. You have this ability to boost range, which gives Shadows quite a lot of flexibility. It is a low complex spirit. Looking at the summary of powers, it has a little bit of offense, less control, the most fear, and then very little defense or utility. And I disagree with this offense. I think it's probably half this offensive bar. Flipping the spirit board over, we have this special rule, Shadows of the Dahan. Whenever you use a power, you may pay 1 energy to target a land with Dahan, regardless of the power's range. And this allows Shadows to kind of bypass specific targeting restrictions. I'm going to be honest, I actually hate this special rule. The extra energy is really brutal when you like your energy starved for most of the game, and then you need to pay energy in order to use this special rule. And I don't know, it doesn't feel good to use, and I find it to be pretty useless most of the time. Looking at our growth options, we are a 0-1-1. That means we are not placing presence on reclaim. We have a presence placement option that gains power cards, and then a presence placement option that gains 3 energy. Because we have this growth pattern, our tracks are amazing. We end at 6-5, but we will be growing the least. Likely you'll grow between 6 and 7 times maximum. That's like in an England game. But most of the time, you'll really only be placing probably around 5 presents in a given game. So a lot of times you'll notice your tracks will look somewhat like this. And when you're playing Shadows, you really want to reach that 3-3. Well, if you're playing any spirit, you want to reach that 3-3. And Shadows will get that with 4 presence placement options. Now, the journey to the 4th play takes an eternity, so a lot of times the game ends like right around here or here. Because you have to factor in you'll have 2 reclaims. Looking at your special innate here, it's a fast power sacred site range. It allows you to gather and explore. Destroy 2 explorers, gaining 1 fear per explorer, and then finally 3 damage, and then 1 fear per invader destroyed by this damage. And this innate here, this final threshold, it makes me very sad, and that's because for some reason they decided with Shadows where even if you play all 4 of your cards, you're not allowed to get this innate. You'll actually notice with River, with Earth, you'll be able to hit that max innate by playing your uniques. Lightning, you almost can, and then Shadows, you definitely can't. So it makes me really sad that I can't actually hit that. Looking at my power cards here, we have Mantle of Dread, which is a 1 energy slow. It's a moon, fire, air. Target any player. You gain 2 fear. Target spirit may push and explore in town from a land where it has presence. We have Crops, Wither, and Fade. It's a 1 energy slow, moon, fire, plant, 0 range. 2 fear. You get to downgrade a town or downgrade a city. We then have Favors Called Due. It's a 1 energy slow, moon, air, animal, 1 range. You can gather 4 Dahan, and then if Dahan outnumber invaders, gain 3 fear. And finally, Concealing Shadows. It's a fast power, 0 range, moon, air, 1 fear. Dahan take no damage from ravaging invaders. And you'll notice that both of these uniques combo with each other. You'll play Favors on 1 turn, followed up by Concealing Shadows, and then it has that 0 range, but then you can kind of ignore that with your special rule, if you'd like, to make this card target any land with Dahan, and then essentially protect the Dahan that you moved in. So Shadows has this 1-2 punch, move Dahan, make them invulnerable. The only negative is it takes or causes a blight, likely. Looking across all of Shadow's fear uniques, you get 2 fear, 2 fear, 3 fear, and 4 fear, which gives you a massive 8 fear across your uniques. I believe this is actually the most out of every spirit in the game. And I'm sure someone will find one of the examples where I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the most for spirits that start with 4 cards. Like even many minds, I don't like many minds generates an absurd amount of fear, but that's mainly because of beasts and that right innate giving you so much fear throughout the game. Maybe maybe Bringer? Does Bringer generate more fear? So I guess this is 2 fear, 3 fear. I guess Bringer can, but rarely does. But okay, let's look at the aspects because that's where I think Shadows gets a lot more interesting. Oh, actually, before aspects, is this spirit for you? Now, Shadows is going to be a heavy fear spirit. As I just said, you're generating so much fear. You have a lot of control tactics with your innate, as well as Mantle of Dread and Crops Wither and Fade. And then you have this really interesting Tahan counterattack mechanic with these two effects. You're going to have no defense and no utility, so your support or your ability to give out support is pretty minimal outside of fear. You're not using any sort of defensive capabilities with this spirit. Really, you're just going to be pushing invaders around, generating fear, and then doing minimal counterattacks. There's some, so really, you're not going to be playing a lot of minors with this build. Really, it's just mixed tracks. Like I said, you're going to be going 3-3 in almost all of your games. But luckily, 3-3 lets you play majors, lets you do minors. You can pretty much do anything. Okay, let's look at the different aspects here. Starting off with my favorite, and that is reach. And it says, so this is going to replace your Shadows of the Dahan rule here. And it says once per turn, you get to ignore range. And I actually, reach is a strict upgrade over Shadows of the Dahan. I'm sure someone is going to tell me no. The only time when Shadows of the Dahan is better is if you want to use this special rule twice in a turn, which is pretty much never. Otherwise, Reach is just a strict upgrade because it's free and you can use it every turn. So if I ever play Shadows, you'll see me playing Reach just because I like the simplicity of it. Okay, looking at some of the other ones, we have Amorphous, and this is going to give you. Okay, it's going to allow you to move one of your presence to an adjacent land or land with Dahan anywhere on the island in the fast phase as well as the slow phase. So it also gives you some really crazy presence movement. I actually think this is probably just as bad as Shadows of the Dawn. Um, what makes this effect really sad is it doesn't actually allow you to utilize concealing shadows because you'll throw your presence in that land, and then when you use concealing shadows to protect the Dahan, the land will blight, killing your presence, and you get no value out of it. So, if you look at any of the other aspects, even reach, you can kind of get past that. I mean, amorphous doesn't. So this is another aspect I really don't like. Oh, that's another thing. Both reach and amorphous, they play very similar to base shadows. I would say like literally identical. Um, like reach allows you to like extend across the board a lot easier, but I mean shadows doesn't really want to do that anyway. So looking at foreboding, this is probably the strongest aspect out of these starting 4. It's going to give you another innate, and it's going to replace your special rule. And it's a fast power 2 range. It says your other powers may ignore range when targeting the target land if you have 2 air. After an action generates fear in target land, you may push explorers or push towns, and then it can gain more fear. And this is, like I said, a strict upgrade to base shadows. So if you like playing base shadows, you should just be playing foreboding instead. It doesn't change much compared to base shadows. Now it does offer some very interesting effects where you can kind of lend this out on another board to help disrupt lands. So it gives shadows a little bit more utility, which is something that I value greatly in Spirit Island. Now, I would play Foreboding, except I like how simple Reach is. So whenever I play Shadows, like I said, it's always Reach. I don't even like play with this card, despite it being, in my opinion, better than Reach. And lastly, we have Madness. Once again, Madness is going to be replacing that special rule. And it says when you add presence during growth, you may also add a strife in that land, which is really cool. And it actually changes up Shadow's game. It allows you to place presence, and when you're placing presence, you're strafing invaders. And then it says when your presence is destroyed, if invaders are present, one fear per presence destroyed. So it doesn't protect your presence, but it at least gives you some value with like concealing shadows, as it's going to generate more fear. This is going to reduce, well, I guess maybe it doesn't reduce your control, but it at least increases your defense as you're allowed to place strife on the board that can disrupt invaders. I've never played Madness, so I don't know if it's more fun or less fun than the other ones, but I know it definitely makes the game a little bit more different. Okay, and finally, the Nature Incarnate aspect, the one that you probably are most interested in, and one of the ones that ended up getting through, and it's Darkfire. And this is probably the coolest Shadows aspect. If you love Shadows, this is going to be the aspect for you. Now, once again, you're replacing that special rule here, and you're going to gain a new unique. So now you start with 5 cards, 4 uniques, and I guess a minor here. And it says dark and fire as one. You may treat moon to you as being fire or vice versa. You may discard or forget powers that grant moon to pay for fire and vice versa. You gain a moon/fire element every turn. And the first time each action would destroy one of your presents, you may push that presence instead. So you get this permanent presence immortality. You get an extra element. You get an extra unique. And now your elements on your uniques can kind of mix and match. So like I could play like Mantle of Dread here. And this can give me 1, 2, 3 moon. Or it could give me, I guess, 3 fire. And it just allows you to hit this innate a lot easier. Like I could play these 2 cards. And now look at I'll be hitting that innate on 2 plays, which is something that Shadows normally couldn't do. So it enables this second threshold really a lot easier. In addition, it lets you hit this third threshold quite easy as well. If you played like these 3 cards, and by that I meant no, you can't. I'm pretty sure. Oh, I think it's what is it? There's a way to get it early, but I don't play much Darkfire. I don't think I've ever played this aspect. I don't really know the strategy behind it. Does it change how Shadows plays a little bit? Um, because you have Unquenchable Flame, you can now give Badlands to other players as well as this card being on element for you, and that Badlands can really make other players' games go very differently. Like if you're playing green and now you get a Badlands, or maybe you're playing River or Fangs, it enables so many more combos. And it also gives you like infinite presence destruction. Like your presence destruction just doesn't die, which is pretty cool. If you like this video, like, subscribe for more content. I'll see you guys in the next video.